Performa, a Mac Performa, and ready to work. That's what I say when I get up in the morning. But if you played Warcraft, there's a ton of Easter eggs in the movie that you will get. But if you're not really a Warcraft fan, it's actually still a great fantasy movie. So warcraftmovie.com, check it out, watch the trailer, and please to enjoy. Next week, the Fun Comfortable Tour continues. Kansas City and Phoenix. Go to funcomfortabletour.com. Bunch of dates in January now, leading up to the special on January 29th. Let's see, the dates are in Nashville, Bloomington, Indiana, I believe Atlantic City, Baltimore, and then San Francisco. I'm pretty sure there might be a few tickets left for the special Fun Comfortable taping. Go to funcomfortabletour.com. And now, from the Nerdist Community Corkboard, this weekend is the NKLA Super Adoption Weekend at the La Brea Tar Pits in Los Angeles. If you don't live in LA, that's why there's planes. It is from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m., both Saturday and Sunday. Free. Fun for humans, fun for dogs, and adoptions start as low as $50. Go to nkla.org/events for more info. And then also, comedian Jono Zalé has a new album out called Snake Oil. Jono's super funny New York-based comic. You can find his album on iTunes or jonozalé.com. And, my animation company with my friend Shadi Petoskey has its first pilot out in the world. It's on Amazon. It's called Danger and Eggs, and it's part of that pilot program that if you watch it, then they will make more of them. So that's the thing. Danger and Eggs, Amazon Prime. Go there, watch it, please. It is it's SpongeBob-y in nature, so kids and stoners alike will adore it. And so go there, review it. I think that helps a lot. That helps. I think the record for reviews is 2,500. If we could break that, that would be amazing. If not, I will go to hell, all right? Fine. You want me to go to hell? I'll go to hell for asking you to help me out on this. But, but it really is fantastic. So great job to Shadi and everyone over at Puny for making Danger and Eggs over on Amazon Prime. This episode is Nick Hornby, who is promoting his new film, Brooklyn. It's a movie he wrote that's in theaters right now with Saoirse Ronan, who has been on the podcast before, and Donald Gleason is also in it, and also his fantastic collection of books you should get. If you haven't read a Nick Hornby book, you absolutely... High Fidelity, one of my all-time faves. Matt brought a first edition High Fidelity copy to the podcast, and Nick graciously signed it. Very fine man, good dude, genius, and we were lucky to have him on the podcast. This episode, by the way, brought to you by Casper. Casper mattresses, obsessively engineered in America at a shockingly fair price. You spend a third of your life sleeping, whether it's on your back, on your side, on your stomach. I'm a side guy, and then kind of a stomach guy, and I smush a pillow under my torso. But you need to do it on a good mattress. Casper brings two comfy technologies together for better nights, brighter days. There's latex foam memory and memory foam. So there's just the right amount of sink and just the right amount of bounce. And here's the good news. They will deliver it straight to you. You can try it for 100 days, and if you're not happy, they will just pick it back up. So I don't think you're going to want to return it, but you can try it for 100 days. You should definitely know by that point. And listen to this. $950 for a king-size mattress, $500 for a twin. And now you can get $50 towards any mattress purchase by going to casper.com/Nerdist and using the offer code Nerdist. Sleep well on a Casper mattress. It's the Nerdist Podcast, number 756, with Nick Hornby.
Now entering Nerdist.com.
Oh my God!
Do you know what a waft?
No, well, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. Is it like a fresh dessert? Oh, it's like a candle shop. It's like a candle shop sprouted up in a cake oven. Like
It's the greatest stuff.
everything about it.
I used to smoke 20 cigarettes a day, and I can't believe that I ever did it.
Well, you didn't have those before.
No, exactly.
These weird future devices. They look so futury. They look so... I mean, it definitely looks like if Kirk was having some type of a summit with some alien, that they would pass these out. Oh, this is part of their tradition.
Yeah, you can see them scattered around a 3D chessboard.
Yeah, with the 3D chessboard.
This would be enough for my sci-fi movie. That's my only special effect.
the only technology you care about.
You kept trying to write it into Brooklyn. They were like, it's not period, Nick.
It's not.
No, trust me. I love the smell of it.
They roll smoked unfiltered. I'll do the movie, but
the Italian guy would have this.
Yeah, he would. He absolutely would.
Hey, before we make out, what about this? Until they make these, someday I think the smart combination will be to make this a hotspot. Like if they could put some type of a data device in there to make your.
Well, there is I've read about malware being on them because they charge USB and they're made in China.
Sure, so you plug them into your computer.
Sometimes they'll dump malware into your computer without you knowing.
That is fucked up but genius.
It's also why would you plug that into your computer instead of the 9 million USB plug-in device? We have wall plugs everywhere.
I know, but if you
in America, you do. I plug this into my computer all the time.
Well, enjoy your Chinese malware. I don't know what else to say. It's an honor to have you on. It is a huge honor to have you on.
It's very nice to be here.
I mean, I'm sure people gush on you all the time, but High Fidelity was one of those things that just changed my life. I mean, it just completely, I feel like when you're young, you see you everything is new and exciting to you, and it expands the horizon of what you seem to understand. And as you get older, it gets harder and harder to find those moments. And High Fidelity is one of those moments, like, oh my God, this defines me. This is the new. I mean, it's honestly, I can't thank you enough for that.
Thank you. That thing you said, though, I quite often think that we are a great big piece of paper when we're in our teens, and these people come along and scribble, and they, Martin Scorsese, Bob Dylan, and as you get older, there are fewer and fewer spaces left. So it takes a lot for someone to be able to get into your head and put their name in a corner somewhere.
Do you still have corners? Are you still finding spaces?
I still got corners, and I love new stuff. I can't listen to the same music over and over again forever. So I want to find new things, and I want to find new movies, and I want to find new books. Definitely.
Because I was reading a Rolling Stone article with you, and you said was the artist name Andy Rauch?
Oh yes, yeah.
Rauch. Andy Rauch. So I listened to him because you recommended it, and it was fucking great.
Oh, good.
Kind of reminded me a little bit. I don't know why. After I listened to him, then I went and listened to America's Greatest Hits. Do you know the band America?
I do know the band America.
He had there's kind of a cool 70s-ish vibe to some of his vocals.
I've never heard anything by America apart from A Horse with No Name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My friend, I've got to introduce you to history, the greatest hits of America. Sister Golden Hair, Ventura Highway, Only in Your Heart. I mean, come on. Before you leave today, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to gift you via iTunes America's Greatest Hits.
Thank you.
A gift from an American.
Yes. Yeah.
America's so weird. They make us listen to a band called America.
I didn't know it was actually America, that band.
That's all of America.
It's all of America.
You gave us the Beatles. We're handing you America.
But
so sorry.
Yeah, we win.
I guess you win that war a little bit. I guess maybe you win that war a little bit.
Have you tried Chicago? How about Boston?
Kansas. Dust in the wind.
We're not great at names here.
Really, actually, if you were going to go on the names, you wouldn't really quite get the best of America.
Are there bands called like Leeds, Wales?
Their own?
No, of course not. You're not that stupid.
Where is Toto in America?
Toto? Technically Kansas. Technically Kansas.
Is that right?
Well,
I
It
was on the plains down in Africa.
I like that. Have you heard that guy who does the stand-up routine about Horse with No Name?
No.
It's really... Well, it's just a little thing. He says, You're in the desert. You've got nothing to do. Name the fucking horse.
That's totally a joke I would want to tell now to a bunch of millennials who are like, what are you fucking talking about? That I would have to explain. Now I'm going to buy all you America's Greatest Hits.
What horse? The greatest racing horse of all time? American Pharaoh?
It's got the name America in it. Yeah. Well, we are pretty America-centric here. Do you find that amusing or irritating, or how do you perceive that?
Well, we've always thought a lot about America, and I thought a lot about America when I was a kid. When I bought Marvel comics and they had those adverts in the back with those toys, I just couldn't believe what you had, and everyone used to talk about it because there was so little stuff in England, and then in the 70s you had films like A Year Before Us and books came out at completely different times. I was talking to Colin Toybeen about this, the guy who wrote Brooklyn, that he said he can remember that there was a rumour in England that I think Saul Bellow had written a new novel. And intellectual friends said, have you heard this? Have you heard this? That there's a new Bellow novel? And then somebody went to America and they, look for the Bellow, see if you can find this Bellow novel that we don't have. But it was the same with movies and R&B, and we had our own stuff that you didn't have. But now, of course, it's all one big mush.
It's all smushed together.
Well, now you get James Bond movies 12 days before us.
Yeah.
Pretty
Do you have your tickets for Spectre yet?
I saw a screening of it last week.
Oh, you did?
I'm going tonight at 8, 7
You're going
o'clock.
back?
Yeah.
There are 3 things. There are 4 things that define Matt Myron. I'm going to tell you exactly what they are.
Uh-huh.
Star Trek,
Uh-huh.
the Red Sox,
Yeah.
NASA,
Yeah.
James Bond.
Yeah, I would throw guitars in there.
And guitars, left-handed guitars.
Yeah.
Rare left-handed
There you
guitars.
I'm really interested in where this Bond ranks for you.
This movie is... It is... I would say...
You asked the right guy. He actually did a ranking of all the Bond films.
I did it at the Times of London. They
Did
called
you?
me up and were like, hey,
Really?
vote in this thing
Because he has
with
a James
us.
Bond podcast called James Bond.
they were like-
It's just wrong that you're doing the Times of London. They asking you.
It was hilarious. It was
Yeah.
like me and my co-host and like... oh, God, I'm trying to remember who else was on that list. And then it was just a bunch of properly English people that were asked this, and we were like the 2 Americans on the
So what's your
panel.
list?
But it was I would rank this almost as good as Casino Royale, the 2005 Casino Royale, and which is
number 9.
which is number 2 in the whole thing for me. From Russia with Love is my favorite James Bond movie. Casino Royale, and then I would say Spectre is very close.
Really?
It's very close.
You liked it better?
Hence we're going to the screening tonight. We're going to really, now that we've had the experience of seeing it, now we can actually go and
See all the things
Analyze
again.
Go and actually enjoy it.
go and
The nerves will.
yeah, it's gone. I don't have to worry. Is James Bond going to die?
Are you a Bond fan?
No.
No, not at all.
But I've seen the movie. In England, you have to go. The Queen said that you have to go. And it's like, it's something like Christmas. You know, it's like everything in the shops
Yeah.
is James Bond. It's James Bond toilet paper, James Bond cat litter. Everything is James Bond. And I have kids, and, it was like, well, we got to go. It's the law, so
It has been decreed.
when are we going to go?
I was just in London for my honeymoon, and I bought these boots, which are in the new Spectre movie.
Oh my God!
And
Get
were they
those off the
marketed as
table, for
James Bond
Christ's
boots?
sake.
They're Crockett and Jones, guys. It's a great British company. They make them in Northampton. They're handmade.
Yeah, great.
The whole line of shoes is now available. If you want to go to your local,
I don't.
you can't get them in America.
Oh well, that's a shame. I'll just keep wearing the shoes I already have on.
I hope they gave you those, did they?
No, God, I bought them.
And I'm all right. How
And
much?
you've just.
Enough.
I know that they're $9,000.
9,000. And this actually, talking about this actually reminds me of one of the quotes from High Fidelity that I have said over and over and over again to people is that it's that idea of it's what you like, not what you are like. That you are essentially defined by the things that you populate your. I mean, and this is the perfect example.
I don't
This
know
is a
what
perfect.
you're talking about.
But I am surprised that it ranked that high for you.
Yeah, it really did. I think they did a fantastic. I think
You
part
don't-
of it was just
you don't
after-
like plot so much.
You know what?
You're not a fan of plot.
You don't need a plot in a James Bond movie. You don't need one. You need the MacGuffin. What's the evil guy trying to do, and how will James Bond stop?
I
it?
didn't
That's all you
understand
need.
what he was trying to do, really.
He was trying to stop surveillance. That was the big.
He was trying to stop Phil Spector.
These are, you know what's interesting is the model sunglasses, the Tom Ford sunglasses he wears in the movie, are called the Snowdens, and the boots are also
you see?
named the Snowdens.
You see?
Interesting.
I'm just saying, very pro Snowden movie.
So you'd never see yourself writing a big crazy spy movie or a big crazy.
No, I would rather kill myself.
That's what Daniel Craig said about playing James Bond.
I'm sure it's great when you get the job, and then 10 years in, you're like, Jesus Christ.
I actually know a couple of guys who've worked on the last few, and it's such a roller coaster for them. They're fired, they're rehired, they're fired, they're rehired.
Purvis and Wade?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know that they're
very
fired and
familiar.
rehired.
Very
Yeah.
familiar. And I feel like I gave them the wrong. Once they had John Logan writing this mostly, and then they had to bring back in Purvis and Wade, and then I was like, oh, maybe the problem's John Logan.
So you weren't so keen on Skyfall?
Skyfall was good,
Yeah.
but I don't think it was.
One of the epics of
No,
world cinema, like
I don't.
Spectre.
Yeah, I think Spectre was just because it had been so long since we'd gotten a James Bond movie that had the gadgets that weren't out of control, invisible Aston Martins. It was like gadgets. It had it had mission. It had like he didn't have to go rogue and leave the service like he's had to do in like the last 4 movies. It's been the same sort of.
Did you like Quantum of Solace? I didn't really like Quantum of Solace.
Quantum of Solace is good when
No, listen and hear him out.
You're having a stroke.
Nope. When you watch it directly after watching Casino Royale, because
Yeah, so
it is
do
a
that.
direct.
Try that.
Oh, okay. No,
It is a
I'm probably
direct
not gonna do
sequel.
that.
It picks up 2 seconds after Casino Royale ends.
But how does that make it a better movie?
Because the plot of it is so on its own, it's like, what the fuck am I watching? But when you see it together, plus that movie had some problems. There was a writer's strike, so they had no one to finish the script. So it was like
Also,
essentially
there was a
Daniel
hydrogen
Craig and-
hotel in the middle of a desert.
How is that not? That's your problem with something in James Bond? A hydrogen-powered hotel in the middle of the desert?
Yes, because it was so divisive. It's like, well, obviously they're going to blow that up because they're
Of
basically.
course they're going to blow that up. Any building he walks into, you can think they're going to blow that up.
I like the way that this is like a concession to the movie, though. They didn't have any writers. There was a writer's strike. Give it a break. It wasn't written.
I'll tell you, I heard they improvised the entire thing. It was just, they were like, okay, you're James Bond. Go, you're in the
Would
desert.
have been great.
Spectre felt like that to me.
Did it really feel like that?
Yeah,
too?
it's like, let's blow something up because we don't know what else is going to happen.
I thought they could have blown more stuff up, honestly, in Spectre.
Could have blown
I
some
think
more
they
up.
could have blown some more stuff
No,
up.
this-
We're different people.
Yeah, High Fidelity was great. Could have used more explosions. One more explosion. One explosion outside the record
I
shop.
have never written anything with a gun in it, and I wouldn't know where to start.
Ever.
Yeah, never.
But what's interesting is that if I do think I would assume that you understand the concept of obsession, like obsessing over something as an Arsenal fan.
I
or as
love talking about. I love talking to people who know stuff about stuff.
Yeah.
And he knows stuff
do.
about stuff.
Too much stuff.
Yeah.
Have you ever written about something that you didn't know already that you thought, well, that seems interesting, and then you got sort of sucked in, and then that informed your writing?
Well, I've just started to write period, and I'd never thought of doing it before. And it began with the movie An Education, and then I wrote a novel called Funny Girl, which was set just after An Education finished. And it's kind of stuff I knew a little bit about because both of those things are set in the 60s. But I really, really enjoyed learning stuff that I didn't know. But I've always wondered what it must be like to be, say, Michael Crichton, because Jurassic Park must have seemed like a really great idea, But I'm sure that was all it was to him, was like a really great idea. But for the rest of his life, wherever he goes, people are saying, now, was that a Triceratops or was that a, my obsessive book was Fever Pitch. And I still have the same obsession. And if people want to come up to me and talk about Arsenal, it's not like I go, oh, I'm so over all that. Because I'm not. Arsenal got destroyed yesterday, and I feel bad about it. And I've already spoken to people about it, but it's an ongoing thing, so I can stand by the book in that way.
Also, Arsenal is still playing matches, and dinosaurs have pretty much done all they're going to do. There's no new.
Yes.
There's no
Also,
new.
is Michael Crichton. Rest in peace.
I guess if you are Michael Crichton, and people are like, "Well, what did the Diplodocus say?" And then you can just shield yourself with a sarcophagus of money.
Yes.
Because
I created ER too, by the way.
that's right.
He did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's, I wonder, it's interesting, the idea of the trappings of success, because when you set out, I'm sure you have some idea, well, it'd be nice if people appreciated this on a larger scale so I can continue doing this thing. And then all of a sudden, something that was just one of many ideas in your head becomes a thing that defines you.
Yes.
And that seems... I mean, to the layperson will go, well, fuck you, you're making money and you get to do what you want. But to that person, do you feel like that's creatively stifling, or?
Yeah, I would think it would be creatively stifling. To be associated with one thing and to have to do that one thing repeatedly, I think that's a tough gig, actually.
I mean, you've had a lot of hit things. You had a lot of books and hit movies, but if it were something on the scale of Jurassic Park, what would you do? How would you process that?
It was interesting. I was on a panel with Amy Schumer the other day, a screenwriting panel, and we were being asked what good advice we'd been given, and Amy Schumer said Judd Apatow had told her, "Don't chase the money," and she said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "There's nothing to buy." And she said, "Really? There's nothing to buy?" He said, "Yeah, there's really nothing to buy, just crap."
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
it's true.
It is true.
So true.
I mean, if you have $10 million, do you need $100 million? Like, what are you going to do with that extra? Just give it away.
And when I was younger and I didn't have any money, and you maybe opened some men's magazine and there was some watch in there, and it was like a £5,000 watch, and you think, oh, that must be a really good watch, which is a little bit better than the £4,000 one, which is a little bit better than the £3,000 one. And then when you've got a bit of money, you realise that these are things that are just invented to soak money off rich people.
Absolutely.
That there's nothing there. Apart from that they cost £5,000.
It's a great watch, though.
Is that one of the James Bond watches?
Yeah.
Okay. Look at the fucking James Bond watch. I just remember when I was in high school.
You know, those are £11 in London.
Oh, they are not, believe me.
They are £11. But when we see an American coming...
Quick, put the American prices out.
But for you, £5,000.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You seem like a loud American.
Damn.
So you gotta fake your accent. No, I just remember
They were little stocking presents for my kids.
Full of Omega watches.
They're basically like a sand pit full of
Yes,
watches.
that's right. Yeah.
And you just sort of sift through. But
you throw them under tables to balance the table.
But there definitely is that thing, that biological thing of, I guess, accomplishment, or maybe it's tied to our egos, but the first time that I ever worked and paid for something was a pair of sunglasses that I thought were going to be really cool, and I worked and worked and worked, and they were like $100. My parents went, well, it's expensive, but it's your money, you can do whatever you want. And I got the sunglasses, and I was happy with them for about a half a day, and then I don't even remember what happened after that.
First thing I bought was a Joe Pass Epiphone Emperor 2, left-handed.
Do you still have it?
600. Yes, it literally hangs next to my desk.
Are you happy that you bought that?
I always look at it and think fondly of the summer I slaved away at a pharmacy to
Could you
buy
explain
this.
what he just said?
It was some
a
sort of
big
fancy
hollow
left-handed
body guitar.
guitar.
Not
okay.
that, I mean, it was
Right.
$600 is not huge.
What was the first thing you bought when you finally were like, oh my gosh, I'm working? Do you remember what your first big purchase was?
It's so pitiful. I think I went into like a Virgin Megastore.
Oh!
And I thought,
Virgin
I can buy anything I want in here. And I'd like got a trolley.
Yeah.
And I filled it with like 25 things. That was it. You know, those were the limits of my imagination.
Do you remember what any of those 25 things?
Not at all.
You were just
They're
pulling
probably
stuff
still
in.
in the shrink wrap somewhere.
That's really but it's a good lesson to learn. It's a good lesson to learn because I think people.
Wait, what's the lesson?
The
There's
lesson is
nothing to spend it on.
well, yeah. There's nothing to spend it on, and even if you do, it's that moment of acquisition, and then that's the thing. Like it's almost like a hit of that thing where you just get a quick little buzz of oh, I just get now what? No, I guess I got to do that again, and I got to do that again.
Interesting.
And also, I think when I started earning money, I'd got to an age. You know, I didn't publish my first book till I was 35, and I was kind of at an age where my tastes were set, and it would have felt really stupid to suddenly start dressing in a different way. I mean, you can spend a load of money on clothes if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
But how do you start doing that after you've reached a certain age? So I'm going to throw away these free T-shirts.
Also,
now.
don't you think that maybe because of your British culture that you would have shown up at a pub the next day in super fancy clothes and people were like, the fuck is your problem?
Yeah, well, there's that too. You've got to start doing a lot of things differently. You've got to start ditching your friends.
for fancier friends.
Yes, yeah.
You have to have two persona that you have pub Nick and then tea time Nick.
One of the things that interests me in LA is that a lot of the Hollywood people, you know, they earn astonishing amounts of money, but they have to keep earning that money, and mostly it seems to be because of the numbers of people they employ.
Oh my God! It is. Listen, I'm never going to complain about the life that I have, and you know, and I do very well. And this is not a complaint. This is just a fact. 80% of what you make goes to other people. At like 80%, like right out the door. So whatever you go, oh, they're going to pay you this. Okay, you just figure that, you know, because half of that's taxes, 10%'s agent, 10% manager. There's publicist, lawyer. There's so many people that sort of and it's just kind of all right. Well, as long as I can keep doing what I'm doing, that's why it doesn't really bother me because I'm still doing what I. But yeah, it is. It's an exorbitant amount of goes out to other people.
Because we don't have managers in England. There's, you know, obviously if you're a writer, you have an agent. But then that whole other thing of personal managers and publicists and that kind of thing, that's very mystifying to me.
Oh, sure, because as a writer, I would imagine that the whatever publisher you're working with, they handle all of your press and they handle right.
Yeah.
And it's not like you need ongoing PR. It's like you write a book and then you come out and talk about it and then go back and write another one. And
yeah, although this last year or so, there's suddenly been a lot of product, and so I've been doing lots more talking than I normally do. So I had Wild and a novel and Brooklyn quite quickly close together, and as a TV series that's just been shot in the UK as well. So there's more publicity than writing, but usually I'm happy just doing the writing.
The question I like to ask a lot of writers, just because I want to know, because I'm trying to figure it out, but when your brain is at its limit and it is saying to you, you're staring at your screen and your brain is saying, I don't care if you punch me with a rock, I am not spitting out one more word, I cannot. You just feel like you're at the edge of what you're capable of doing that day. What do you do? How do you push through that?
This is a very dark secret, and it's something I've discovered relatively recently. It's jigsaw puzzles.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really, like 1,000-piece complex?
1,000-piece, yeah. So I've got a desk like this, and then another desk here, and this desk here has got a jigsaw puzzle on it. So I turn round and I start fiddling, and it's so cool because it's just enough to occupy your mind, but it leaves great chunks of your mind free. Whereas before, what I was doing was messing around on the internet, and I'd get right out of the zone completely by reading people's Facebook posts and looking at lists of 5,000 greatest James Bond films. And things like
We
that.
don't need to do that. You got Matt Meyer right here. He'll tell you every single
Tell you them in
That is the
order.
most fascinating answer I've heard.
But if you do that reading stuff and read junk, then it takes you out of the page, no doubt about it. But the jigsaws keep me in the page, and I've just been doing one after the other.
That's fantastic. And I guess it's also a real-world application for essentially problem solving and piecing together.
Yeah, and of course paying incredibly close attention to something. It's like, is that the fold of that guy's jacket on there? And I think having to look really, really closely probably helps you as well. So the problem solving and the close attention to detail. And I do it until suddenly I can see that there might be another sentence in
That's
me.
fantastic. I've never heard that before. What do you do with the puzzles when you're done? Do you smash them up and put them back in the box?
Yeah, smash them up and back. I just did this this jigsaw puzzle that was the cover of Sergeant Pepper.
Did you finish it?
I finished it. But you know the Beatles' letters in flowers?
Yes.
That was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
God.
It was harder than any book, any movie, because you'd pick up a piece and it was just flowers. You couldn't look at it, because it's so big, you couldn't look at it and say, oh, that's the E.
Oh my
It's just
God.
red flowers.
So that's just trial and error.
It was
You
just trial and error.
you have to make a separate section of just the flower pieces and then try to...
I might have a photo to show you.
That I would love to see that. I almost wonder if your brain gets
that's
so
why I
frustrated with a
keep-
puzzle, it's like, oh, fine, I'll write.
Exactly. It's freedom from the torture of writing.
I can't do this shit anymore.
I keep all my guitars next to my desk, so like I can just turn away from my screens and just pick up a guitar, because that just shuts off the part of my brain that
First of all, that is a piece.
Oh, that's really horrible looking.
That's so beautiful.
It's beautiful, but I'm getting stressed trying to figure out...
But you know, it was Peter Blake, this great British artist
Yeah.
who designed that cover, and those colours are so hidden. That's from the drum. That's from the big drum in the centre, and I can find. I'm sure. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
I'm giving you silence. You don't
No,
want
you're not at
silence.
all. Listen, it doesn't matter. I think a lot of people think that, well, I'll just go waste time on the internet. You're right. It completely... Because it sucks up the worst parts of your brain. And
It really does.
And just chews up all the creative energy.
And also, if I spend a day doing a jigsaw puzzle and I don't do any writing at all, I don't want to shoot myself. I think I did a really good day's work today.
You
I
accomplished
got
something.
like 150 pieces done.
I don't think anyone has spent 6 hours fucking around on the internet and gone, I really accomplished something today. I read a
That's
lot
it.
of Wikipedia
Feeling
articles.
completely sick. You just feel sick with yourself.
Yeah, that really is time you're not going to get back. But it is, the internet does trick you into thinking that you're doing something, but you're not really doing something.
I got it. Finally.
Oh, that is spectacular. That is spectacular. Oh my God! Look at the letters. How big is the puzzle? Is it about?
you saw the
Yeah, it would be the width of this desk.
Oh yeah, those would be impossible.
They're just all red.
There were times, I can tell you, gentlemen and ladies, where I thought I'm not going to get through this, but I stuck it out.
I mean, for those of you at home who've seen the cover of the Sgt. Pepper, of course, everybody has. Edgar Allan Poe, who's in the back row, it's his face is 4 pieces. So he's in the very back row of that. His face is 4 pieces.
That's the other thing is I have a friend. We go away, my family and I, with a couple of other families every summer, and a guy, a friend of mine, he always buys a jigsaw puzzle for everyone to do, when they're not doing anything else on holiday. And he says there's got to be some educational content in it. And we don't want to do pussycats. We want the kids to be able to learn something while they're putting stuff together. And this one is so educational because of the people.
All the people in it.
And each time I was looking people up and thinking, I didn't know that was who that was, and I didn't know. Like, I think Shirley Temple's in it twice or 3 times or something.
And then there's one Bowery boy instead of the Bowery boys.
Yes, exactly.
Wait, who was it that wouldn't be? It was the
It was
Bowery
the other
boys?
Bowery
the other
boy
ones were
that
like,
said no.
we're not going to be on the cover.
What is this? I don't know. No.
Are you a completionist? Do you need to, if you started, do you have to finish?
Yeah. And invariably, when I finish one of these, there's a piece missing, which I've dropped on the floor somewhere. It's gone down the back, and I can't bear it. So, I've always found them so far.
Oh, thank God. Yeah. You mean in that case, you would just have to buy another puzzle and find the piece that fits in there.
There's again.
You'd never be able to. I would never be able to just be satisfied and go, oh, it's just that one piece is missing. That would drive me crazy.
No, it does drive you crazy. But it's very satisfying.
What do you learn? I honestly, this is a serious question. What do you learn about yourself in the way that you approach puzzle solving? What have you learned about how you approach?
Well, the other thing that I used to do was cryptic crosswords, and in England where we have these amazing cryptic crossword compilers, and the Guardian newspaper has fantastic compilers, and I'd switch from writing where I was stuck to doing the crossword, but then I'd get stuck. And the thing about jigsaws, you can't get stuck.
That's true.
That you can always keep going. And I so wish that there was some job where maybe I should just work on an assembly line.
I mean, in a way, you do work on an assembly line. You're building a story. You're assembling a story.
But it keeps coming to this juddering halt. And,
well, you just got faulty machinery on the line.
Or industrial action. It's internal industrial action.
But that's the thing, too, is that, I guess when you're writing something, all the pieces are somewhere in the universe. You don't necessarily have them. I guess at a certain point, you just have to have faith that, well, I've done this before. I guess I'll figure it out.
Yeah, and of course the problem is an infinite number of pieces. So when you're doing a first draft of something and the page is blank, then there's any way you can go. There are millions of ways that you can go, and you have to choose the one that feels like the best way, but it might not be the best way. But with the jigsaw, there's only one way to
go. The simplicity of that's really nice.
Exactly.
The math on that really is satisfying.
You start with the borders? I mean, that's what you do, right?
Yeah. Pick out the edges.
You have to pick out the edges. How else would you do it if you didn't pick out the edges?
Maybe you see Paul McCartney's face and you're like, I can start here.
Yeah, or the drum. Yeah. You can see lots of drum pieces.
I bet there were a lot of people argue, and they're like, those goddamn borderists. I'm a centerist. I start in the center. I work my way out.
I start at the French horn and go out.
There's always a French horn in everything that I'm solving. I mean, so with a movie like Brooklyn, where you're taking someone else's work, do you feel any more or less responsibility when it's not your own, when you're translating someone else's work into a different medium?
No, I don't feel any more responsibility. Movies are so brutal in terms of the numbers of fences that are put in your way.
Sure.
That if you don't do a good job, then actually no one will ever get to know about it.
I guess that's true.
It's a self-select, it's a Darwinian thing. And if you can get to the stage where there's a script that actors and a director really like and that people want to fund, then that's the validation. And then you don't feel so embarrassed about showing the original author the thing.
Right.
Look, I hope you like it. Lots of other people seem to like it, and they want to make a movie of it. That's quite a strong hand to go to someone with.
Sure.
But if you write something, no one wants to be in it, no one wants to fund it, he probably doesn't want to read it either.
So you're okay. You're totally going to pass.
Clear. Yeah.
Because it's happened to you on the other side, too, where someone's taken your work and they feel like, I know Fever Pitch, it was just like, they just made an American version.
Yes.
Well, they made a British version.
Well, the British version first, but I mean, and then they went and made it, because Colin Firth was in the British version.
Yeah.
I rented that on VHS.
And then Fallon was in the American version. It was just like a totally different...
Well, the American version was a remake of the English movie rather than an adaptation of my book.
Yeah.
My book was a memoir that takes place over 25 years, and it wasn't a movie. And I adapted it myself because it had to be something else to be a movie.
Right.
And so there was a whole different narrative and a whole central relationship. And that was what they took and moved to the Red Sox.
Yeah, I was such a fan of Fever Pitch, the book, that I remember when they were making the Red Sox one, I was like, oh, okay, that seems like the franchise you'd want for that. And then when we won, I was like, oh, fuck. It just sort of ruined the movie. Because they were filming it the year of the championship.
It was incredible because they... You know, one thing I really like about this is that it's the only ever example of where Americans decided to take an upbeat, feel-good British movie and turn it into a downbeat Red Sox version with a miserable ending. Yeah. And they chose the Red Sox because they provide the miserable ending.
Every year.
Every year.
Question. 86 years in a row.
86 years in a row. So they start making this movie, and it was going to end miserably. And then people on the production are going, Red Sox having quite a good season. And then, oh, my God, Red Sox, they're in the postseason. And then everyone's like joking and saying, wouldn't it be really funny if this was the year? And everyone went, yeah. And they're in the World Series final.
Yeah. Well, it was also like, you know,
So
we were down.
So they still manage, even in winning, to let you down.
We were down 3-0 to the Yankees, so it looked like we were just going to do what we always do.
We were home free.
No problem
Yes.
whatsoever. No team in the history of baseball has ever come back from that deficit. Leave it to the Red Sox to continue that wonderful tradition of not coming back from that deficit, and then all of a fucking sudden, we decide, oh, this year we're going to fuck Hollywood.
They made that decision. I'm sure in the locker room, the coach was like, guys, we need to fuck Hollywood. You see what they're trying to do.
Then, like, the movie ends and they're in St. Louis winning the World Series,
And Drew
Jimmy
Barrymore
Fallon and
is
Drew Barrymore are there. Yeah.
On the pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
On the field,
Yeah.
as you say.
It's almost like Major League, the movie Major League. Where they expected the team to tank.
They weren't going to move the franchise.
They weren't going to move the franchise
like in
to
Major
Florida.
League, like the owner wanted.
No.
You ever see Major League? It's an American movie about the Cleveland Indians. It's a comedy from the 80s that weirdly still holds up.
It kind of does.
It does. I'll watch it whenever it's on Comedy Central. I'll just stop and go, all right.
What is it that you're seeing? So when you're watching Arsenal play, what is it that you're seeing? What is it that you're feeling? What is it about it that you feel so connected to? I know that sounds like a superficial question, but I don't understand sports very well. Okay. So I'm always interested to hear what it is when someone is connected to a team. What is it that they are extracting?
Well, it becomes more and more, unfortunately, as you go along. So, you know, it started with me going with my dad, and now I'm going with my kids. And pretty much my entire life has been constructed around it, but in ways that nobody would notice. So all my friends are Arsenal fans, but the Arsenal fans I've chosen are writers or movie producers or musicians or whatever. So I've got all that as well. But the Arsenal thing comes first. And I live right next to the stadium, but the stadium is in a really nice part of London. So that's completely fine. The kids go to school in the shadow of the stadium and play with other Arsenal supporters and study with other Arsenal supporters. So
Well, that comes in handy.
there is a kind of lifestyle thing. Well, when I'm watching, it's changed as I got older because I can see it as part of a much larger narrative. So if there's a real crisis at the club, then I think, oh, this is interesting. Something now might change. It's like, you know, there's only been like ever 12 editors of the Times or something in 200 years, and Arsenal don't change their coach very often. And when he's under pressure, you think this could be a moment of history now, and then it doesn't happen. They start winning. But so I'm looking at it as part of this parallel historical universe now, that all these things are going to be part of the history of the club. My kids, meanwhile, are like what I used to be, which is they just feel sick before a game,
right?
And they get very angry. And last night they played this really tough German team in Germany, and everyone knew they were going to get hammered, and they did. They got absolutely annihilated. It was embarrassing. And my wife chose to go to the cinema and employ a babysitter because she didn't want to be with the boys.
They're going to be tearing up the...
Because they're going to be tearing... Yeah, and she, you know, she went to the cinema with a friend, she went out for a drink, and she's phoning the babysitter saying, are they asleep? And he said, yeah, they're asleep, and then she went home. And that is an entirely sensible way to deal with the Hornbys on the night that Arsenal's playing.
Whenever Arsenal's playing, not today. We'll catch them for brunch.
I think it's different. English sports because of the size of the country and the length of the season and all kinds of things. So a regular English championship season is 38 games, 19 at home and 19 away. And it's perfectly possible. Well, most of us see every home game because there are maybe 25 with bits and pieces of other games as well. So you see every home game. And that's probably maybe 40,000 people going to see every Arsenal home game. But the country is so small that there is a significant subset that goes to every single away game. So they will see every game of a regular season.
Sure.
That's maybe 9,000 or 10,000 people.
Wow, that's still a lot.
It's still a lot, but everywhere you go, you can be back that night.
Wow, that's true.
Because even Newcastle, which is the furthest one away, it's like a 4-hour train journey, 5-hour train journey. And then there is about the same number of people who won't miss any of the games in Europe either. So they'll fly to Munich or they'll be in Greece in a couple of weeks' time. And that's probably 4,000 or 5,000 people. So it really is a kind of lifestyle commitment that is enabled by English geography to a certain extent and the length of the season. Like the baseball season, you can't do it. The games are too far away.
Games.
182 games.
Jesus.
That's without the playoffs.
Oh, my God.
So you dip in and out in ways that seem alien to us, actually.
I don't dip. I watch.
You watch?
I paid for the fucking satellite channel, so I get the Boston home channel. Like, I just...
Do you watch 182 games?
Yeah. If I don't watch them, I listen in my car because, with the app, I can listen to the home broadcast.
And how do you feel do you feel sick? Because you're going to lose 50 games, right?
At least?
Yeah.
This year we lost 84 games. We were just under 500.
See, I don't understand how you can go into a season knowing you're going to lose between 50 and 80
You just
times.
look at it at one series at a time, Nick. You're playing the same team 3 games in a row usually, 3-game sets, 4-game sets. So you just look to win the series each time. That's how you win.
Arsenal's best season was unbeaten.
Well, that's never going to happen for baseball.
2004, the Invincibles. It's only happened once in English soccer history. But
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then what happens the next season?
They weren't unbeaten.
The Red Sox owners bought Liverpool.
Really?
They own Liverpool, yeah. I don't know what they're trying to do, but...
Expand?
They have a racing team, too. We're owned by a guy called Stan Kroenke, who owns a couple of...
It's a great name.
Yeah, but he owns a couple of... He's married to a Walmart heiress, and he owns a couple of sports teams here.
Mm-hmm. That is a Bond villain in the making right there.
Oh, yeah.
He seems quite nice, but he won't put any money in the club. He just takes money out.
Yeah.
Just takes money out of the club. Yeah. Well, I guess it is... I mean, the colors and the hats and the apparel is as prominent over there.
Yes, completely. And everyone has to. Well, I don't, not grown-ups, but all the kids have to wear the new shirts, and they have to buy the away shirt and the away socks, and they have to have a player's name on the back. And the really vulgar thing about English football is that everyone has sponsors, and the sponsors' names are all over the shirt.
Ah, fuck.
So you walk round with
they have
O2 or whatever on your shirt.
They have to do it. There's no commercials because they got to play 45 minutes and a half.
There's so much money in the game, and Rupert Murdoch has flooded the game with money. They have so much money they don't know what to do with it. They could at least take the sponsors' names off the shirt.
But then that's extra money.
Yes,
and I guess people are used to it, so it's not...
Judd Apatow will tell them, there's nothing to spend
to spend it on, Rupert Murdoch! What do you want to spend this on?
Yes.
Well, I like this team, but I also like flying United Emirates. What do I do?
Well, my team plays at the Emirates.
Oh, that's worked out.
It's horrible, isn't it?
It's ridiculous.
I go to the Emirates every Saturday.
So you live in it.
I live in the Emirates.
Yeah, you do.
The beauty of the Red Sox is it's still just called Fenway Park. It's not like AT&T's Fenway Park. You know what I mean? Like all these other ballparks.
The only thing that consoled me when my stadium became the Emirates was thinking about Wrigley Field. And you kind of forget that That's
was
a
the gum guy,
vulgar
yeah.
commercial
Yeah.
name, and that one day everyone woke up and, oh my God, we're playing at a chewing gum place. How disgusting, and then you just forget about
You
it.
completely forget about it.
Yeah.
Although they make it harder to forget about it at places now.
Oh, well, everywhere. I mean, the naming rights for stadiums go for so much money. It's like the Patriots, American football, they play at Gillette.
That's what I think it'd be fun.
The best a man can get.
So I think it'd be fun to just. You know what? That's what you could buy if you had like $1.5 billion. You could buy and get the naming rights to a stadium and just name it like Matt's Stadium. You could just name it
$1.5 billion instead of building your own $1.5 billion stadium.
Well, no, you could build it, but just naming it after yourself. Like, don't name it after a company. Just be like Nick's Stadium.
Have you ever thought of buying ad space on a really crappy cable channel?
Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, I 100%.
$80 or something.
It's so inexpensive. You know, here though, in America, you'd have to. I've researched this. You pick your region. So it'd be like, okay, you know, maybe I'd buy in the Northwest. You know, I'd hit Portland and Seattle, and you know, maybe a chunk of Idaho and Montana. Like you could be up there, and yeah, you know, 2:00 in the morning for like $1,500, you can get a run of weird commercial spot. Absolutely,
I was thinking of doing Christmas cards.
on a cable channel.
Just Happy Christmas to all my friends in Oregon.
That's genius. Why don't you do that?
Boy, Nick, why'd you spend money on the whole half
Oregon.
hour? I don't understand. All you said was...
I thought
Happy
this was
Christmas
only a
orders.
minute. They're telling me to stretch. I guess I have a half
Maybe
hour.
we should all club together.
Yeah,
and
we'll all say Merry Christmas.
What? No, you'll be the new Bob Ross, but you'll just be doing puzzles instead of paintings.
Who's Bob
He's
Ross?
a painter.
Oh, Nick Hornby, I am going to change your life. Bob Ross. It'd be interesting to see if you like Bob Ross. Bob Ross had was it public broadcasting?
Yeah, it was PBS,
Yeah, on PBS in the 70s and 80s. This guy named Bob Ross, a white guy with a big afro of hair.
I'll pull him up so you can see him.
In a half hour, he would just paint. He painted landscapes, and he had the most pleasant demeanor. Everything was, I'm going to make a happy cloud here, and then we're going to put an almighty tree right here. And he just showed you, and in a half hour, he would create this gorgeous landscape painting. And Twitch TV, which is a popular live streaming site, just decided recently. I watch the UT's dead now. I watch the YouTube channel sometimes at night when I go to bed because it's so calming. And Twitch, for his birthday, did like a 72-hour marathon
That's Bob Ross.
of his shows. It is so fucking calming.
The guy would put a happy cloud and
Put a happy cloud up there.
Look at that
So you could do the same thing, but with puzzles. You could be the Bob Ross of puzzles.
We had a guy called Rolf Harris who did the same thing on kids' TV.
Yeah.
Quicker, not half hour. He used to do one in 5 or 10 minutes.
Take that, Bob
So
Ross.
I know, yeah. But he, unfortunately, is now in prison.
Oh no! So many of your so many of your folks.
So many.
Did he help Jim fix it? What did he do?
He was involved in some of the things.
Why?
We have the highest percentage of incarcerated television personalities.
Well, you're such a small country, almost everyone's a television personality.
You know, though,
It's true.
it's almost like you're almost like to have to run a background check before you give someone a television show.
Did you guys all know about Jimmy
Yeah.
Savile then?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
I was fascinated by it.
Yeah.
It
It was incredible. It's like industrial.
yeah.
I mean, literally the most horrible things from a it'd be like if you found out that SpongeBob had
That's
was
a cartoon, Chris, not a real person.
No, I understand. But it's the same kind of like
Yeah.
that type of an iconic,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, like Bill Cosby or something? Like, is that what it would be like?
But yeah,
That
no
would be
idea.
crazy if that happened.
Jimmy Savile was so deeply entrenched in the consciousness
Much
of
better
the nation. You know, Mrs. Thatcher's best friend, endless charities on television all the time, and there's this really spooky interview that Johnny Rotten gave in like 1976, 77, and he was being asked about being nasty and a punk rocker and all this kind of thing, and he said, well, I'm not like some people I've heard about, like that Jimmy Savile. I've heard horrible things about him, and that was 1976, like 35 years before anything came out.
Who would have thought Johnny Rotten would be a whistleblower?
Exactly.
He was. They should have listened to him more. They
I
should
love how
have.
they kept Jimmy Savile on that long, and it seems clear that the BBC knew there was something going on.
Yeah,
at
completely.
many points throughout.
Yeah.
But they shit-canned Jeremy Clarkson for punching a guy.
I guess now there's a zero tolerance policy. Like it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, they're just going to get out of there. Did you go? Did you ever see the Sex Pistols live when you were here?
No, I didn't. I pretty much saw all the others, and there was one show not far from me, and they played, and a friend had a ticket, and I was going to see my girlfriend at the time, college girlfriend, and I called her up and I said I got Sex Pistols tickets, and she was pissed. You know, she said, "But you know, we're going out and doing this and doing that," and I didn't go, and I've never forgotten it. I mean, it was. I learned something, that you just have to be ruthless when opportunities to see unique events come up. It really, I don't think, doesn't matter.
What was that? What was the rock club like scene like in the 70s in Britain? What did it feel like?
Well, Britain was really dark and ugly place in the 1970s. I want to write something about this, but it was the kind of incipient threat of violence everywhere. You know, we had this. We'd just come through this huge crisis with trade unions, which resulted in working a 3-day week. In 1974, 75, there wasn't the power to keep offices open for 5 days. We used to go to the electricity showrooms and look in the windows to see who was going to have power cut off at the weekends. Jesus. So you'd plot when you could watch television with your friends. You think, oh, look, you've got TV on Sunday, so we're going to come to your house Sunday, and then Monday it's everybody back to ours. Wow. And you know, it was like it was like an Eastern European country. And then suddenly in 1976, this stuff started happening, and you could see kind of where it was coming from, the sort of boredom and frustration, and so, you know, the Clash and the Sex Pistols and the Damned and the rest of it. It was really, really exciting. But the violence that quite often happened at football matches, you know, those clubs felt like dangerous places, and you wouldn't go to the front. And you know, watching the spitting, you know, it was extraordinary in the stage lights. Just this hail of spit the whole time, like a sheet. And you know, the musicians were getting ill, like if they kept their mouths open to sing, and they took a mouthful. You know, you get glandular fever and jaundice and all kinds of things. It was pretty dramatic. And meanwhile, at football, there were fights between maybe 3,000 people every week, and police, you know, couldn't control it, and this was inside the stadiums, and it got to such a crisis point by the mid-80s that the whole thing was in danger of collapsing. There were two major disasters very close together where a lot of people died. And 1989, 1990, you wouldn't have bet on professional football surviving up until this point. But then that's when Sky came in, and they made the stadium safe, and they priced out the hooligans. Basically.
I mean, it's so funny. You say 1990, it feels like, oh, that wasn't that long ago. Well, like 25 years ago.
25 years ago, I know. There are some years that just don't feel old, do they?
No, like when I hear 1998, I'm like, oh, that what? Oh, fuck, you know, that was a while ago.
I get it now with people saying, yours was the first book I ever read, things like that. And you're looking at an adult, you know, and you think, oh my God.
Come on.
But yeah, I mean, Fever Pitch was 1992.
92, right.
25 years next.
Wow.
Couple of years' time.
That's amazing. I mean, it probably doesn't feel like that. It probably doesn't feel like 25 years.
It doesn't feel like it at all. But when some hairy-ass guy, is like a foot taller than you and bald, says, I read this when I was 10 years old.
Oh my God. Oh, I don't feel good. Oh.
I did. Or in 83, sorry.
That's that hairy-ass guy. Yeah, but, so much of the male protagonists anyway, were guys that were completely, that was my brain that just kind of hyper-focused, obsessive about a thing, almost at the expense of the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And I assume, with interviews that I've read with you before, you've said, when you're writing, you can kind of, you notice yourself, like you feel yourself bumping up against a character.
Yeah. I think as life's gone on, those obsessions have occupied a smaller part of my mind. I think, the kids thing, they give you so much to worry about and fret about, and they make you miserable in so many so many ways that football never even thought of. I think some inevitable perspective comes in. I couldn't write Fever Pitch and High Fidelity now, but I'm glad I wrote them then. I'm really proud of the books, but if I ever read a little bit of it, I'm reminded that it was a younger person that wrote them and had this kind of focus.
I almost wonder if responsibility is the slayer of obsession. When you have more free time, you have more time to obsess over things.
Well,
but
it does fill up gaps, definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious of sitting next to someone who watches the Boston Red Sox 182 times a year.
And also all the Star Treks and also all the Bonds.
I've read all of your books too, Nick.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. It fills up some empty time.
I have to say, with Brooklyn, Saoirse is an incredible actor. She's been on the podcast before too.
Oh, has she?
Incredible. She was super funny, super cool, and it's really been great because it feels like she was just a kid not that long ago, and now she's an adult, and this is an adult role, and
getting married in the movie and all that kind of thing. Yeah, one of the things that terrifies me when I look back on the whole process is that I started this screenplay in 2010, and Saoirse was 15 or 16,
wow,
and she couldn't have played the part. And I was really frustrated about the time that it was taking to get it together, and we had so many troubles raising finances and things. But, slowly, Saoirse was getting older until she was old enough to play the part, and then we got the best possible person in the world for it.
Yeah, and that's another year, by the way, that sounds like it wasn't that long ago, 2010.
Yeah.
Like, that's half a decade.
What were we doing then? Oh, this.
We did, yeah. We started this in 2010.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's right.
But the red mic was here.
It's just everything.
Boy, everything was different.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a cut to the flashback. We're both sitting here. The mics are just... Kyle's beard is shorter. This is about
So
it.
you cut to the flashback. Oh, the mics were in the same
Oh,
place.
yeah. Something's ever changed. But, but it is important.
The waters were bigger back then.
They are. Smaller. Change is important, though. Change is scary.
But Saoirse is amazing in this movie. I just couldn't believe it the first time I saw a cut of it. And like you say, she's such a great, grounded, funny, smart, sassy person as well.
What part of your psyche does a story like Brooklyn occupy? Are you writing outside? Like, what pieces of you are in that?
Well, when I read the book, I just felt. I felt a lot. It really kind of punched me, and I had an emotional connection to it in the same way that you might have an emotional connection to a piece of music that you couldn't have created yourself. So there are two ways of looking at those connections. Some you read something, you think this is me, and other things you just think that's amazing, and It was the latter. It was that's amazing, and I could see that if Column's a beautiful literary writer and a little bit icier, I guess, because of the distance that he has from his characters, and I could see that if I could smash the ice on the top, then there was this wrenching thing inside it. So the initial connection was emotional. And then I guess the way I hooked in was thinking about growing up in a small town and wanting to get out. And so many people in England and the US and Europe end up living in different cities from where they grew up because their home city could not provide what it was they felt that they needed. We all have to go. Where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in a lot of places, but primarily Memphis, Tennessee. But my family moved a lot. But I feel like it's probably more commonplace now. But a lot of Americans don't leave the towns that they're from. And it's interesting to hear that part of your culture is, a lot of people leave those towns for opportunities.
I guess the kinds of people I'm talking about, whenever you meet someone in LA, then they've come to LA because there are things that they wanted to do.
Yeah, you don't meet a ton of people that are from LA.
Exactly.
Sorry,
familiar? Okay.
Get out!
But most of the time, people... I think the great story, actually, of popular music is people who didn't grow up in big cities who wanted to belong somewhere else.
Right.
And the Beatles in Liverpool, the Rolling Stones in Dartford, Dartford in Kent, nothing for them there. The band in Canada, wanting to make great American music but not being American. Neil Young in Canada. And weirdly, there are not that many bands, certainly from the 60s and 70s, from London. It's like people coming to London. It's like, that's where I want to be. Springsteen, that's the classic sort of, I want to get out of here and I want to go to where there's something happening. And that's where I hooked in, I guess, a bit to
But I'm always going to sing about New Jersey.
I'm always going to sing about New Jersey, yeah.
Marry it!
Yeah, but who's the best London band?
I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know who is actually from London.
Oh, well, the Clash were from London. They would be my best London band. But our big
Jam from London too.
No, you see, they were from Woking.
Oh shit!
They grew up in exactly the kind of town where I grew up.
Oh, okay.
Like a dormitory town, 30, 40 miles outside London.
How about ABC? I like 80s rock. 80s.
Sheffield.
Oh, they were.
Yeah.
Martin Fry.
Yeah.
Fucking love that band.
Pulp, Sheffield. There's so many that there's all the Manchester bands, obviously.
I read something that said that High Fidelity was almost a You've Got Mail type of romantic comedy.
That was the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, the movie went off on a weird loop.
I'm glad it came back around.
Yeah, and I understand it because I think when that book got optioned, they thought, oh yeah, this is a movie, and then they sat down and broke it down and thought, oh, it's just a guy thinking in a record shop.
Yeah, but he's such a great character. And not only that, but he's I think he's around 34,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And so that's a perfect transitional age for a guy who, especially, when there's like our parents' generation weren't afforded the luxury of an extended adolescence, and then there was a generation that's like, well, you can be an adolescent until you die, effectively.
Yes, yeah.
And so it's seeing that guy hit around 34 and kind of realizing that he's been in this bubble and like, oh, how do I grow up? Do I grow up? Do I need to grow up? It's an incredibly philosophical work about what it means to grow up, especially at that point in your life.
Yeah, and how much you can maintain while... I think the whole subject of growing up has become different for us than it was for our parents.
Absolutely.
Anyway, most of that generation, they were working at 18, married at 21, parents at 25, and for a whole variety of reasons, like everyone has further education now. I was the first member of my family to go to university. And that extends things. And then women want to establish themselves in a career before they think about having children. So people are having children later and later, and there's this 10, 15-year period that other generations never had, and we've had it, and we're extending it further and further and further. And you know, I hate it when I see things that say, "Oh, no man over the age of 40 should be wearing jeans." You know, you see sometimes in like GQ or Esquire or one of those things, and it's like, what difference does it make?
Seriously, it doesn't matter.
It
really doesn't matter. But I also love the idea that Rob kind of has that existential adult moment where he kind of realizes, what am I chasing? What am I still chasing? Like, you know, when you're younger, you're chasing. And I think at a certain point, you kind of go, I don't know why I'm doing that. I don't know why I need to do that anymore. Like, what do I need to chase all the time?
That, I guess, it's a weird comparison, but one of the things that Brooklyn and High Fidelity have in common is that they're both about committing to a moment. And Eilish, when she goes back to Ireland, she's trying not to commit to one world or the other world.
Sure.
And Rob is trying not to commit to one job or one person. It's to try and keep options open for as long as you possibly can. And then the terrible, terrifying part of becoming an adult is realizing either that all the options have gone and you're stuck with this, or that you're going to have to, you know, if you still do have options open, you're going to have to go for one of them. And it is a scary thing.
It is, but it's just, you know, it's really just accepting a new set of options. And new is, you know, like I said earlier when I was kidding about the microphones, change is scary. But, you know, I mean, I don't... You know, I mean, you some options are no longer available to you. And when you get married, some options are no longer available to you. But then you have new options, and those new options are actually... Why did your eyes get all wide?
Just got married, that's why.
Well, I'm getting married in 9 months.
Well,
I mean, it's...
Talk to me then. Your eyes will get wide.
They're not going to get wide. I am so excited about it. I am so excited about it.
You should be. It's great.
No, but I mean, not even the wedding part. The wedding part's fine. I'm excited about the concept of being married. I'm excited about being with someone.
I wish I could record you and then go back in time 2 years and play this to you.
Can I tell you something, though? I think part of this is because I'm going to be 44 when I get married.
Right.
And I'm not 25. You know, it's like I've whatever it is that is out of my system. Like, I'm just ready to be with someone that I care about, that understands me. That, like, you know, do you feel the same way?
Completely. One thing I don't feel about my marriage is it's closed off options that matter to me. I really enjoy being married, and knowing someone really well is a really cool thing, I think.
Yeah, because ultimately...
Don't listen to him.
No, I love it. It's the best.
But what did you want to pull him up on?
Well, I just think, like, you know, I just think it's interesting, like, just to hear you now. It's very nice. I think it's...
Well, you know, I met a person that it just feels good. It just feels, oh yeah, this is what this, you know, like, it's...
Told you.
What?
That's what I said to you. I said that you'll know.
I know. Oh, it's just nice, but it's also, you know, watching a character like Rob go through those struggles, or, you know, in this movie, watching Eilish trying to decide, but, you know, then you kind of go, well, you know, everything's a choice, and it's just what set of consequences do I want to live with? And I think it's better to not be chasing all the time. I think it's better to, you know, to really make a decision, find something that you love, and stick with it.
It's interesting though. I'm trying to think to myself, if I feel I still have options, then does it matter to me? I don't feel I have too many options, but I don't care about not having them.
Well, maybe you don't have a certain kind of options, but I feel like you still have a wealth of options. You know, like maybe there's a couple of things, you know. You're not going to go on Tinder, but do you need to do that? You know, like you have some family responsibility, but then you also have a ton of options, especially because of what you do. And also you can create anything you want. Yeah,
I want those kind of options. They're there, but it's like I have no option other than to write. And I'm either going to write this or I'm going to write that. And that's definitely a closing off of options from earlier on, where I might have been an astronaut.
Okay, maybe you're not going to be an astronaut at this point, but maybe that's not so bad, because, No,
astronaut's bad, I think.
it doesn't sound.
lonely.
Matt wants to be an astronaut,
I would have loved to have been an astronaut. My time has passed, guys.
but
No, don't say that.
you can only appreciate something on a surface level when you're doing a bunch of different things. But when you really hone in on one thing, or when you really find one relationship that's special to you, that's when you can really create the depth. And I think depth and connection are vital.
And there is a great liberation in not having to think about the other stuff.
Think about you must know guys. I know guys around people around my own age. You must know people around your age too, where it's like they don't have any attachments to anything because they've created these lives where they don't make commitments to anything, and ultimately they kind of feel.
I have somebody in my head. I'm so tempted to say his name and say, "Are you listening?" But I'm not going to say it.
And it's like, who's to say what's better for another person? But I sometimes I sense from those people like you're just adrift and you're lonely because you're not connected to anything, and it's kind of a bummer. I mean, like,
That's him.
did he just?
Do you want to talk to my wife?
Sure. Yeah, bring her up on the speakerphone.
Hi, Amanda. You're on a live radio thing. Do you want to talk to people?
Yes, I'm very proud of the film Brooklyn. I'm delighted with my husband's brilliant writing.
You're not picking up the tone of this program. They're much more negative than that on the whole.
Hi.
Bye.
Oh, you're going? Is that it?
Oh no. You're actually on speakerphone with me and Jessie.
Oh, Jessie, do you want to say hello?
Hello, Jesse.
How's your day?
Not with a smile. You've got to say something that communicates with a smile.
Oh, okay. Jay, how was your day?
Good.
Yeah? Have you played any football?
Yeah.
Well, are you coming back from training?
Yeah.
How was...
We had very good training.
Very good training. Okay. But you're not going to talk on this podcast, are you? So I'm going to get off the phone.
All right.
Bye.
Arsenal rules.
Bye.
Enjoyed not having options. Oh, she's gone.
Oh, she's
I'm
good.
so sorry.
No, that was great. I'm surprised when you said you're on a live radio thing. It just didn't click.
Yeah.
Well, lastly, I want to say before we let you go. So, when does Brooklyn come out? When does Brooklyn come out? Came out yesterday.
Yeah.
So
Oh my
Brooklyn's out now. People can see it.
In New York and LA.
Donald Gleason's in it as well, and Saoirse Ronan is in it.
Saoirse and this really great young actor called Emery Cohen and Jim Broadbent and
Jim Broadbent. Oh my God, he's just one of those guys that no matter what he's doing, you can't not watch him.
No, and you trust him with your life as well.
There's so much depth in everything everything that comes out of his mouth.
And he plays this priest. One of the things I love about Brooklyn is that if people haven't read the book, then they always presume that somebody's done something bad. Like she meets this New York guy called Tony who just seems charming, and movie language, you're going, okay, what's his story? He's chopped women up and put them under the sofa.
He's in a gang of New York.
He's in a gang of New York. He's already married. He's got kids. And there's nothing. He's just like this super charming guy. And then Father Flood, Jim Broadbent, why is he doing this? Why is he arranging all this stuff for Eilish? Just because he feels sorry for her. That's it. And everybody has the best of motives, and yet you can't stop the pain and distress of their lives anyway. That's a terrible thing about life.
The last thing I want to say to you is, I'm sure this comes up a lot, but I want to tell you, I bear you no ill will, even as a Radiohead fan. It doesn't bother me in the slightest that you had an opinion.
It's weird that you brought it up then.
No, you know why? Because I think people always bring it up in a challenging way, where they're like, "How could you not like Kid A?" And you're like, and I read your explanation. You just said, it just didn't resonate with me, and so I don't understand, even as a fan of a huge fan of that band, why you can't have a fucking opinion without, why is that a problem?
It's amazing, the Kid A thing, because, that was, 14 years ago?
Right.
14 years ago. And somebody tried to send me a hate mail on the 10th anniversary of my review. But one of the things that makes me laugh about it, I mean, I wrote about this for The New Yorker, which meant I had to write a lot, and I had to listen to it a lot for like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
4 or 5 times a day. And each day I hated it more. And then people all the time, they say, you know that Kid A review you wrote? I say, yeah. They said, have you changed your mind? I say, oh, yeah, I woke up today and I thought, you know what? That record I hated so much 14 years ago, I'm going to play it all day today.
The 50th time I listened.
Maybe, Nick, maybe if you listen to it right after watching Casino Royale.
No, that's not going
that's
to
true.
change
Hey,
anything.
What's the worst Bond film?
My least favorite is Thunderball.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. It's there's
Not View to a Kill?
View to a Kill's so corny in 80s, it's beautiful. But
So
Thunderball is
maybe
just,
I'll watch Thunderball, then listen to Kid A.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe that'll maybe you'll be like, oh, hang on.
This has got some tunes.
Have you
in
ever
it.
met the band? Have you ever met the band?
I did meet Johnny once, but when they were still good. I saw them.
Throwing heat with Nick Hornby.
I saw them on the OK Computer tour. You know, The Bends, I think, is the greatest rock album. I think it's just incredible, The Bends. And my thing about all art is, and I think it's true, it's how I feel about abstract art as well, is like if you can paint and if you can do all the things that you want to do with colour and light and you can paint people and buildings as well, do that. And if you're making music and you can say all the things you want to say and incorporate all these strange different sounds and you can make a song, then do that. And for me, most abstracted art takes you up a blind alley and people always come back in the end to the structure of figurative painting or song or narrative fiction.
Yeah.
And those are the things that people love the most in the end. They're the things that last. And for me, the Bends will be listened to for longer than Kid A. They're super talented people.
Yeah. Well, I honestly can't thank you enough for being here. It was really an honor to meet you. And you're such a fun hang. Like you just,
I loved it. I could sit here all day.
we could have you here all day. You please, when are you back? And are you coming back in the States anytime soon?
I hope so.
All right, good. When you do, please come back.
I will.
All right. Or maybe we'll just have a coffee.
Yes.
Maybe we don't have to record everything.
Well, I don't know.
And we got to get together to do our Christmas message.
We have to make the Christmas messages that
to
we're
the
going to
people
air
of Oregon.
on public yes, local cable time in Portland, Oregon.
Yes.
If you want, the Sox are in California.
Cheryl Strayed, who wrote Wild, the memoir, she lives up there, so I could address her
I'll
personally.
tell you what, I'll tell you what we'll do. Because you think the Bends is one of the greatest rock albums of all time, we'll buy cable time in Bend, Oregon. That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
It's done. It's right there.
Is there a band called Bend?
Probably.
There's no band called Oregon.
There's not a band. There's not a band.
Taking
There must
us
have been a
right
band
There
called
was a band called The Bends, which was Ben Queller, Ben Folds.
The Bends. B-E-N. Oh, which you know, Ben. You did an album with Ben Folds.
I love Ben
Ben's
Folds.
a really good friend of mine.
Oh, is he?
Yes. The first track off that album is fucking great. Because he's
A
saying,
Working Day.
Yes, Working Day.
Yeah.
He's saying something about someone on the net said something negative about me, but it's cool. What is it? What's the line? But it's cool because they have a blog.
Yes,
It's something
exactly.
like that. Yeah. And that someone on the net said something
And they
negative
should
about me,
know.
and they should know.
They have their own
They
blog.
have their own blog.
Yeah.
It's such a fucking great song. Yeah. How was writing an album basically?
Incredible. Should I talk about it?
Yeah.
What happened with Ben was that it's kind of a cute story, but I wrote this book called Songbook, where I wrote essays about songs that I loved, and I wrote an essay about his song called Smoke, and I think everything Ben does is so melodically incredible, but I focused on the words of this song Smoke, which I think the words of Smoke on the second album are incredible.
Yeah.
And he sent me an email via my publishers, and he was really, gracious. So thank you. I'm so glad you like the work. He said, I got to say, that's the only song I didn't write the words of on that album. So all the praise I gave him, he said, you could have chosen any one of another 35 songs and they would have been my words, but those weren't my words. And he invited me to a show. I went to see the show, went to meet him. And then one day I got an email from him and he said, "Hey, you want to write a song for William Shatner?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I want to write a song for William Shatner." So I wrote this song for like a persona, in the persona of a very, very bad dad, called "That's Me Trying." And he's been out of touch with his kids for like 30, 40 years, and it's the first awkward steps to trying to get in touch.
That's fantastic.
And the song is beautiful. The melody's lovely, and Bill does his declaiming thing over the top, and apparently caused a great deal of fuss because I think in the lyrics of the song, he was addressing a daughter. No, he was addressing a. Yeah, I think he was addressing a daughter. And Bill switched it so that it was addressing a son. And apparently he had a son that he hadn't seen for a number of years.
Shit.
So it's like, why would you do that when you're just going to upset people? Then Ben phoned up and he said, "Hi, Nick, it's Ben." I said, "Hi, Ben." And he just said, "I've got Bill for you." And he put... He didn't give me any chance to say anything. So I'm talking to William Shatner in my kitchen. And William Shatner said, I really like the words you did, and I'd like to work on you. I'd work with you on the rest of the words that I've written for this album. And I said, okay. And he sent me like this file full of lyrics. And he called me back. He said, "You got the file?" I said, "Got the file." He said, "Okay, open the first one." And I was reading this lyric, and it was really... quite raw lyric, and I said, "Oh, this one's called Why Me?" And he said, "Oh yeah, Why Me? That's a really personal song to me. It's about when I came home one night and my wife was drowned in the swimming pool." And I said, "Oh, okay." He said, "Do you think you can do anything with that?" And I said, "You know what, Bill? I really think this would be best coming from you."
I think I can really do that. Oh my God, what an amazing story.
Anyway, and I kind of weaseled out of it. And he
Top 5 weirdest phone conversations.
Yes. And he... so this album is called Has Been, that Ben produced for William Shatner, and it's where he did that Common People.
Yeah.
It's got that on it, and Amy Mann sings backup on the song that I wrote. Anyway, then, a few weeks later, Ben phoned up and said, "Well, that went pretty well. Just send me, let's do an album." And so it was, for a few months, I was just in songwriting mode. Any idea that I might have had for a short story or a scene in a novel went to a song, and I didn't really know how to do it. I just wrote up something that looked like a lyric. I'd never done it before, and Ben would either say, "I got nothing," or "Yeah," and it was all because if he had something, then the rhythm of the lyric would spark up a melody for him immediately, and if he had nothing, he'd just say, "Oh, I like the lyric. I got nothing for it," and it meant that sometimes I would send him a lyric like the end of my working day in England, and when I come in the morning and log on, there'd be an MP3.
Oh, that's great.
It was unbelievable. There's a song on there called Your Dogs, and it's about a liberal guy who's trying to understand his next-door neighbour, but the next-door neighbour's got, like, big attack dogs and guns, and people are coming to his house all the time, and he's sort of trying to understand this guy. And the chorus is, "But your dogs, what's fun about those?" And Ben read the lyrics. He said, "I just sat down," and he had this piano riff, and then he had a toy bass guitar, and he did his own drumming. He's an incredible drummer. So I just got this MP3 back that was Ben doing all the parts, and it was just finished, and he'd done it in like 12 hours. He is... What goes on in his mind musically is really extraordinary.
Well, people should buy that. It's available on iTunes if you want the album. You should buy it. It came out 2010.